Today I'm going to help you understand what are normal, healthy, and appropriate emotional needs using a model that I call the circle of security, where I identify 8 of our emotional needs. I find so much of my work in healing shame is normalizing the human experience. Because what happens when we have been shamed is we're giving this message that what's normal is abnormal, and what is wrong is right, and what is right is wrong. It really confuses us. So we end up growing up feeling that some of these things that are normal human appropriate responses are signs and indication that there's something wrong with us. For example, if you cry and you're taught that crying is wrong and it's in your baby and you're weak and you're vulnerable, something's wrong with you if you cry, then when we grow up, we decide that I'm not going to cry in front of other people, and we deny ourselves that emotion. And one of the things we know when we're looking at healing emotions and having emotional wellness, emotional sobriety, is that we need to allow for all of our emotions in its healthy and appropriate expression. So if there's something that's sad, it's appropriate that you are sad. If something makes you angry, it's appropriate that it's making you angry. But when we're shamed, we get confused about that. So I'm going to introduce you to a model to help you identify what is healthy, normal, appropriate in regards to your needs and relationships. And this is based on the circle security, which is a model for parent-child attachment. And this model introduces or teaches parents on how to recognize your children's emotional needs so that they can respond appropriately to it. And when they do, it will help them on their journey of creating a secure attachment with their children. What happens when we are children and we express these needs and the needs are shut down or punished or rejected, we end up taking them and rejecting them and saying, I don't need this, I'm going to turn this off. So let me explain to you what I mean. So I'm going to start by drawing this out for you. And it is the circle of security. So we're going to start with the circle. And here is our starting area. So I call this the fuel station. So imagine that these are the parent's hands. And in the relationship with a child, this is heaven on earth. When a child is in a safe situation with a parent, where the parent is able to respond to all of their emotional needs, to respond with love and kindness and create that safety and on this planet. And when the child is there, the parent acts like a fuel station. And that attachment, that bond, gives that child all of the emotional fuel it needs to fill up its emotion tank. And so with this emotion tank, here we are full. And when the tank is full, the child begins to feel an urge to go out and venture into this world. But when they get on this side of the circle, their tank is now depleted. It's now low. And when it's low, it cues the child to return to its fuel station to get its emotional fuel tank refilled. This model divides a circle in half. So we put a line right in the middle, and the top half is what we call our exploration needs. And our exploration needs, when those are activated, we want to go out and explore, and so we need support from our primary caregivers. So imagine that you're at a park with your child, the child is on your lap, and they're kind of a strange situation, and they're leaning into you and they're looking around. And then all of a sudden they feel comfortable. And when they feel comfortable, they go out and play. And they go out and explore. Well, after a while, their tank begins to get low, so they return back in to get refueled. So that's what happens over here. So when they return, the bottom half of the need is our attachment needs. And when our attachment needs are activated, we need reassurance. Reassurance that I'm here, life is well, and you are safe. So in attachment theory, we call this the secure base, where they return to. And up here, we call it, or also the safe haven. So What we have is this is the secure base here where you start the journey, and when you return into your safe haven. Now, we divide this model in half because we have 8 emotional needs, and we put 4 on top and 4 on the bottom. The 4 on the top are the 4 different exploration needs that we have. And I'm going to help you articulate this so that you can have a language to communicate what you need. So often in my work with individuals, you ask them, what do you need? And they don't know. They don't know how to articulate it. They just know it feels bad, awful, and it's very hard for them to identify it. This is what we want to do in our work with emotional sobriety, is help give you the language so you can improve your emotional literacy. Often we only have 5 emotions that we can identify. We could say love, happy, mad, sad, scared. But we don't have rich, more advanced language like saying, I feel annoyed, I feel ignored, I feel perplexed, I feel betrayed, I feel awkward. These are not words that we typically use, right? So what we'll have is one emotional need that will or emotional word that will encompass all of that: perplexed, awkward, frustrated, and we'll call it I feel bad, right? So in order for us to be able to be attuned to our emotional needs and attuned to the needs of others, we need to expand our emotional literacy, and we also need to expand our needs, our human needs literacy. And that's what I'm doing here, so that it gives you a language that will help you in your communication, and also to help you identify what it is that you're needing when you get activated and triggered and it's hard to articulate. So we have 4 on top, and then we have 4 on the bottom. Now, I want you to imagine that each one of these emotional needs is like a light switch. And so you have this switch right here. And when you have this emotional need, you cued your parents. You cued them to meet that need. And hopefully they were able to be attuned to that, to notice that you had an emotional need and respond appropriately to that emotional need. But if they didn't respond appropriately, like that would be like they didn't respond, or they punished you, or they rejected you, or they mocked you, or labeled you, or something like that, then what we do is we take that need and we turn it off like a light switch. And we just go, well, I don't need it. And we go numb to it, and we begin to be blind to it. And so then when we become an adult and we have our own children and our own romantic relationships, and they cue you for that emotional need, we don't either recognize it, notice it, we think there's something wrong that they're cueing us for that, and we end up pathologizing it, like making it wrong and bad, and like something's ill and problematic with that person or with ourselves. So when we are on the journey of reparenting ourselves, we want to rewrite these emotional needs. Now, this is hard to do, I guarantee it, because I call it the shark music. Like if you took one of those emotional needs and you turned it off, and your child comes to you, let's say you went to your parents for comfort, and your parents rejected that and said, go to your room, don't bother me, quit your whining, I don't want to deal with you, and things like that. Then we shut it down, and we never turn to people when we need that comfort. We think that we're being immature if we need comfort. So then we have our children, and our children come to us and want comfort, and it's like shark music, dun 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 dun. We're like, no, we just want to shove it down, make it go away. We have an activation in us that is reacting to the expression of that need. And that's because we've conditioned ourselves to not have that need. And we ended up turning what's right into wrong. So as we begin to recondition ourselves and reprogram ourselves, we're going to have a little bit of agitation and discomfort. People will say, I don't like touch, I don't want to be touched. And this could be something that you need to push through to allow your body to reprogram and get reconditioned to accept appropriate and safe touch in a safe environment with your loved one. So I had this experience with my daughter when she was really little. I was very comfortable snuggling up and I was very affectionate. I am very affectionate. But there was this time period where it started to agitate me. Like if she came and she cuddled up, I go, like I didn't want her next to me. I wanted some space. And typically when I'm sleeping or something, I'm one of those independent sleepers, like don't touch me, I just need my own space. But she was such a cuddle bug. Unfortunately, I learned about this, so I knew that was my shark music. So I challenged myself to push through it. And I'd sit there and I'd breathe deeply and I'd embrace her. I pulled her in. She never knew that I was uncomfortable with it, but I pulled her in and I cuddled with her. And then eventually I go, okay, I need to get a break. So I go up and go to the bathroom, get some water, get some food, something like that, so I could get refreshed and then go back. And to this day, she's probably the only human being that I can cuddle with and feel completely comfortable being in my space, which is evidence that we can reprogram ourselves, because that was exceptionally difficult for me. And again, in my own upbringing, I had a lot of affection in my family, but I did have that experience between, let's say, the ages 6 to 12, where it wasn't appropriate to cuddle. And when my family gave me that message, and if I did, they would push me and just kind of go, maybe not consistently, but enough to where it became an aversive situation for me. So as I introduce this to you, you might find that you identify more with the top 4 emotional needs, or you might identify more with the bottom ones. And this is because we tend to be stronger at one half of the circle. We either are really strong at the top emotional needs, but then not so good at the bottom ones, or we're really good with the bottom ones, but not so good at the top ones. And so when we introduce this model, I'll say you're a top half person or a bottom half person. But ideally, we want to be more centered right here, which is where we end up being when we have a secure attachment with our parents. But most of us don't have that ideal situation. So we tend to be closer in the middle or somewhere as we spread out. So just to summarize again real quick, this is a model to help us understand how we form a secure relationship with our parents in life. And it occurs when we expressed our 8 emotional needs and our parents responded to those emotional needs appropriately. We were able to receive them, and in doing so, our emotional tank was full and we had all that we need to go through this world. And so I'm going to begin now by breaking it down for you one by one, each emotional need, so you can understand how this was for you. So let's begin.